Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about my application to go to America. This video will not be going live until I know the actual answer for it, so stay tuned for the rest of the video because you'll be able to see the whole journey of me sort of trying to go to America, and on a timeline, a time frame I might actually add, because I have some plane voucher tickets that run out by the end of this year in 2023 and I have to actually book and fly on these tickets. So for those of you who don't know and didn't watch any of my vlogs at the summer of last year, I was actually struggling to get an ESTA to go to America. I then found out through research that because I was rejected for an ESTA that I could retry and reapply, or I was going to have to go ahead and do a visa application. And I have now sort of found out that I'm going to have to do the visa application. So about 3 weeks ago I filled in the visa application for a B, I think it's a B visitor visa, and I've paid the fee that you need to pay and I just need to go and wait for my appointment. So I am really kind of at a time scale. It's currently June and it is June 21st 2023. I have an appointment booked at the embassy to go and have my appointment in October, so there will not be an update until October when I actually find out what I need to do. And yeah, it's kind of a process I've never been through before, and if you're in this position like me where you haven't been able to get an ESTA, you're having to go and get a US visa. If it's a travel visa, it's exactly what I'm doing right now and the process I'm going through right now, and I feel for you, I really do. So if you're having to go through this process right now, this is the exact video for you, because I'm going to be showing you my process start to end. So in this video, I was going to be talking about my whole process. I'm going to start off with what I've already done. So what I've already done is I went on to the visa website. I found out that I had to apply to then apply for a visa, if that makes sense. So you have to do like a application to then be able to access the visa application. And I will put on screen what that application's called, just in case any of you are needing to go and get a visa. For me, I live in the UK, so I had to apply, I think, via the R people, or via maybe it was via, I don't even know, but I will leave the link, and I will also leave like the name of the actual application you need to fill in first. Basically, in this first initial application you upload a photo, which doesn't need to be a passport photo, but it does need to be a full face photo, and it needs to be one, I think it's not smiling and things like that, almost kind of like a passport, but it doesn't need to be a professional one. And then you have to also put in your contact details for the UK, you have to put in some information about yourself, you have to sort of put the reason why you need to apply for a visa, and you need to put sort of additional details. Like for me, I was rejected in ESTA because I filled out the form incorrectly, and it was because I put yes to having a mental health condition, not reading the end of the question and not fully understanding that the end of the question said that it's likely to cause mortality. My mental health is currently in a very stable place. My mental health has been in a stable place for the past 3 years, and I have not had an issue since. So therefore I read the question wrong. I obviously just didn't read it in full, and I was meant to, obviously my mistake, and I'm paying for that mistake. But if you are having to apply for a visitor visa because maybe you're not eligible to get an ESTA, then yes, this video is going to be an amazing video for you to see my whole process. But that's the backstory. So I applied for this application to be able to access the visa website. So I applied for this, I did the photo, I did the information, I had to put in I think my mum and dad's maiden name, full name, I had to put all their different details in as well as my own details. Then when I'd done that application, there was no fee at this point. There was just a pre-application in a way. So I had this done. I then had to select the visa I wanted to apply for. After this one was done, I then got the confirmation to say it was done, and then in that confirmation email there was a link to be able to access the visa website. I accessed the visa website and I had to fill in a lot of this information again. I think it's because they're two different bodies, I'm not entirely sure, but I had to fill in a lot of the thing again. But it did say that please make sure that what you're filling in on the second form matches your first form. Otherwise, if it doesn't match, then that could be a reason that they turn you away at your interview. So I filled in these forms, and then when I got through to booking the interview, before you can even access the ability to book an interview, you have to pay the fee. And for me in England, it was, I think, at the time of booking, about 140 something pounds to book this appointment. And that includes the admin fee, it includes like shipping of your passport back to you with like the visa inside of it, you know, if you are approved. And then it also is the admin cost for the actual interview as well. So all costs are sort of encompassed into this one fee. So I paid that fee. I then was taken through to select an embassy. In England, there is an embassy in, I think there's an embassy in London, there's one in Belfast, I think it is, and there's also one in Scotland, I think. There's like 3 different ones. My closest one is London, so I selected London. At the current point in time, there was no available appointments for Belfast, and I can't remember whether there is an embassy in Scotland. There might not even be an embassy in Scotland. So there was definitely 2 though. So my nearest one is London, and I had to book one. The nearest appointment was October at the current time of filming this, and I actually booked that, I think, at the end of May. So at the end of May 2023, I booked an appointment for the middle of October 2023. So that is kind of where I was standing. It was kind of like I didn't really have a option. The appointments they look like they're about half an hour slots, and it does say to come dressed sort of smartly, and then it does give you also a list of things that you need to bring with you. It does say that if you don't bring any of these things and you're missing any of these things at the appointment, then you will get an automatic sort of rejection and you'll have to rebook and repay for your visa. So for me, I had a bit of time, but I've already started sort of contacting the relevant people that I need to get this information from. So some of the things that I need to get is I need to contact my mental health team, and I need to get a statement saying that I am stable and in their opinion that I'm medically fit to travel. I also need to get a letter written from the person that I'm staying with. So I'm staying with a friend, so I'm lucky in that sense that I get a statement from them. I suppose if you weren't staying with somebody, you could also get a family member or a friend probably a family member, to write something on your behalf to the embassy. I don't know if that's necessary, but I'm definitely going to cover all bases. You'll need your passport, you'll need, I'm not entirely sure whether you need bank statements to evidence the fact that you can pay for the trip in its entirety. I think that definitely applies if you're wanting to go for medical reasons and you're wanting to go to have, say, medical treatment out in the US. And there was other sort of guidelines if you're having medical treatment out in the US, like you have to have a load of other documentation. But for me, the main things were, you know, from a mental health team, because that was the reason that I couldn't get an ESTA, and then also sort of documentation from the person I'm staying with. So I definitely had to put all that in. I had to bring my passport because the visa actually gets put into your passport here in the UK, as far as I'm aware. And then I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to have a look through the documentation and see what else I need to bring. But yeah, I am starting to get everything ready, because the sooner I can start to get things ready, the better. Good morning, everyone. So I'm still in my pajamas because it is now the morning of my visa appointment and I'm nervous to say the least. So let's do some skincare and let's talk about sort of how I'm feeling the morning of the appointment, plus sort of where I am and the things I had to prepare for all of those who are watching this for guidance as to like what you have to prepare. So I'm going to be putting on some caffeine eye patches. So these ones are from Primark, and I absolutely love them because I get really bad bags under my eyes and I don't know. But also like my voice is really low. I've just realised that. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it needs warming up obviously. So I'm just going to put these under my eyes. So I'm feeling like very nervous and like I get anxious anyway, but I just feel really nervous. So my caffeine eye patches are on and I'm just going to talk about sort of how I'm feeling, and then I'm going to move into the evidence that I've brought and just where I am and stuff. So at the moment I'm staying in the Travel Lodge, and this is the Wood Green Travel Lodge. So it's like about 40 minutes from my visa appointment. So for those of you who are wondering, I'm going to the US Embassy in London, and that is kind of, you know, I've got to be there for 10:30 this morning, and I'm currently up and it is 7 o'clock, but I wanted to be up really early so that I could, one, film for you guys, so two, I wasn't extra stressed about the time and worrying and things like that, because I worked out that because it's going to be rush hour and because it's going to be busy, I will need to be kind of like leaving here around 9 o'clock ish, even though my appointment's not until 10:30, because it takes 40 minutes, but then I want to allow a bit of extra time and I want to be there 15 minutes early. So it's kind of like 9 o'clock just is the perfect time to leave. So I had a really bad sleep last night. I didn't really sleep very well. I went to bed at like, I think 10 o'clock last night, and then I woke up at like 2, couldn't sleep until like 4, and then woke up at 7. So like I'm exhausted at the same time. So these caffeine eye patches are needed. But yeah, I'm gonna go in now and talk about the evidence that I brought and that I'm bringing to this appointment. So I've kept all my evidence in this lovely little folder. I got a pack of 3 of these from, I think, Poundland actually. I think they were like £1.50 maybe, even though it's Poundland. But I think it was £1.50 for 3, and there was one, no, was it, maybe it was 4, but there was definitely one of this design of like the bees, and then there was like 2 plain of this colour. So I've put everything inside this little wallet. So the first thing I've got is my passport. So this is obviously not it's got the passport inside it, but I have it in a cute little travel case. I'm obviously going to have to take it out, but this is my passport. I don't exactly know whether they're going to just stamp it today or whether I've got to send it off. No idea. But my passport. They also asked me to get like a picture of myself, so a recent picture of myself that's like 2 by 2 inches. So it's a bit different to the UK passport like photos that you have to get, because like you have to get like a smaller, thinner one, whereas these ones have to be a 2 by 2 inch photograph, which is a little bit different. But this is the photo that I got done, and I got it done in snappy snaps because I don't know, it was expensive to get done, but I prefer snappy snaps over any other place, because if you take a photo and you don't like it, you can keep going until you've got a photo that you are okay with. Or obviously like not smiling in photos, things like that feels unnatural, as you're never fully going to like or put it on your Facebook profile or anything. But it's, you know, you get to keep retrying until you get the look or the desired photo that you want, which, you know, is better than a photo booth where you just go in. It may be cheaper to do a photo booth, but I find the quality is a lot better in these as well. So the next thing I have is my Travelodge booking, which obviously is for the room that I'm in currently. And then I have a letter from, like, I'm not going to show you obviously, but I'm going to tell you what it is. So this is a letter from the person that I'd be staying with in the USA. So it basically just states who this person is, and then it just says that, you know, he's a US citizen, and, you know, he invites me to come and stay with him for tourism, and basically explains that our families are very close and that he accepts responsibility for me whilst in the US. So it kind of just secures the reason why I'm traveling. Then my next one that I have printed out is my visa like confirmation thing. So this one is a visa like confirmation email page, and this one tells me everything that I needed to bring. It also has my DS-160 number, which is the initial form that you fill out, and then you go through from there to sort of book your visa appointment and stuff. The passport must be valid for at least 6 months beyond the period of stay in the United States. So my passport has only just been renewed. So in the UK, our passports last for 10 years. So like this passport's absolutely fine. Passport containing the most recent issued visa, if applicable. I've never had a visa before, so hence why I'm making this video for those of you who are going through the same thing. We've never had a visa, you've never needed to apply for a visa, and you just don't know where you're going and what's happening. Applicants who have medical ineligibility or have been denied entry, deported or overstayed to provide additional documents at the time of their visa interview. So I haven't been like denied entry, or I suppose I have, like via the ESTA, and that's why I'm going to this. So I've got my letter from my friend in America, and I've also got like a letter from like a discharge letter pretty much from the mental health team here. I've then got my D60, DS-160, whatever it's called, confirmation page, which kind of looks like this. Obviously it's a bit blurry, I don't want you to see everything, but this is what it looks like. You've got the banner across the top, a photo of me and a barcode. So this basically just says all the information that like is about me. The DS160 is the first step in applying for a visa. So a lot of people, they'll do the DS160, they'll realise how much the actual visa is and they won't do it. What confused me a lot about this visa appointment and like what to bring was because the type of visa I've applied for is a B2, which is for medical and tourism, which is confusing because if you're going for tourism, you're going to need completely different things than if you're going for a medical reason. If you're going for a medical reason, you're going to need like, you know, ability to pay for the trip. You're going to need like the reason why you're going, like what treatment you're seeking, like all these different things. I just found it like they should have a separate visa for like tourism because it just was more tailored and geared towards those going for like medical purposes, and obviously I'm not going for medical purposes. So because I'm now going to the visa appointment this morning, I'm not going to bring my Travelodge confirmation bits because that was just me having it there like just as a like, you know, keeping everything together for this trip. So I'm going to put everything back in here and this is going to go in my handbag today, which I will be sorting because I brought the handbag that I use for everything. So I need to make sure that everything in that handbag is okay, because I know that when you go to the US Embassy, you go through like security and stuff, almost like airport security. So I need to make sure that when I'm like going through airport security or going this security, that I don't have anything that would potentially set the alarms off or anything like that. So I'm going to empty my bag out completely and fully, and then I'm going to repack it with the essential things that I need. So like my house keys, my Travelodge, like you know, the cardy thing, my my purse, and like this wallet of information, like, you know, just things that are like essentials. I don't want to be taking things that I don't need to be taking, because I want to take things that have a reason to be in my bag simply for the reason of where I'm going. So I think these have been on for about 10 minutes now, so I'm going to take them off and start doing my skincare. So for my skincare and then for my makeup this morning, I did see a bit of a hack and I want to try it, and I want to try it for the sole purpose it looks really like logical, if that makes sense. So I'm going to be using my day cream by Nivea, and this day cream is just my everyday go-to. I literally am down to there, so I'm going to be using this, and then I'm going to be putting on like powder, which that's the trick, is basically put on your cream, put on powder, and then put your makeup, like your primer on top of that, but obviously let everything dry in between. So there's a mirror here, so I'm just going to be using that. So if I'm looking away from the camera, that is why. But yeah, so what this person said, and it was on TikTok when I couldn't sleep this morning, was to put your SPF on and then to like let it dry a little bit, but then to put like powder on over the top so that your SPF like stays, I suppose. So I'm going to get my nice little cute bag that I've had for absolute ages. So this is why it looks a bit childish, because it's the bag that my mum got for me, like personalised with my name on it, like embroidered with my name on it. So for those of you who don't know, my name is spelt with one E on my birth certificate, but I prefer it with two E's, hence why it's two E's on the channel, and because I always sign pretty much everything with two E's. The only time I wouldn't sign something with two E's is if it's like my granddad, or like for somebody who I suppose isn't aware that I like it with two E's. And to be fair, I don't want to fight the battle of trying to explain why, because it is such a small and seemingly insignificant change that I make with my name, and obviously it's not official, so it's just something that like I don't want to have to fight. I don't want to have to like explain why, in a way, because like my granddad would be fine with it, but it's just like I don't want to have to explain why. And for all of you those that are wondering, the reason why is because when I was at school, and pretty much throughout my whole life, everyone would pronounce my name wrong when seeing it on paper, and I found that having the double E helps people to pronounce it better. So when it had the single E, the common mistake that I used to get was Deeanna or Deeanna sometimes, whereas with the two E's people are more inclined, and I've noticed that some people, and a higher percentage of people should we say, do say it how it's meant to be said, which is Deeanna. And as a kid it used to really annoy me when people used to call me Deena, because I'm like, that's not my name. And I went through a phase of just not replying to the register when like a supply teacher or someone used to say Deena, and then I went through a stage when they would go they would say Deena, and I'd be like, it's Deanna, and then they'd go, is that you? I was like, yeah, it's me, but it's it's Deeanna, it's not Deena. And they were like, I'm sorry, but like it just got annoying because there was so many supply teachers and then like every single one would get it wrong. So it just annoyed me as a hormonal teenager. I'm deciding whether I want to do anything today whilst in London, because like I'm going to this interview, right? But then I don't know when it's going to be finished. My appointment's at 10:30, so I don't know like whether I'll be done by 12. I'm hoping I'll be done by 12, and then I might come back here and then have something to eat because I've got some snacks behind me on the table. But then like, do I then go out and do some things? Like I honestly don't know. Like I honestly don't know whether I'll be going out and doing anything. I suppose it will just depend on how I feel like after the interview, because if the interview goes really bad, I'm not going to want to go out, am I? Like, let's be realistic. So I don't know, like, and plus I don't have a lot of money, so if I went out I'd want to do things that were like free or like really cheap. Like I'm talking real cheap. Like I wouldn't want to have to do anything that was, I don't know, expensive or like, you know, cost much money, because I don't have money right now. Obviously I'm doing this visa interview to then hopefully travel to the States. And when I say I don't have a lot of money, I mean like I'm just before payday. So it's the struggle for everyone that is like just for payday and you don't have the money and you're just like, right, I don't even know what to do. You bet your girl with anxiety has been checking and triple checking and quadruple checking the time that my visa appointment's booked, because I couldn't remember whether it was 10 or 10:15 or 10:30 or whatever it was. And it is 10:30, and now I'm starting to worry that it's not 10:30, so I will be double checking before I leave. But basically the tubes I need to get is the Piccadilly, I think it is, and then like the Hammersmith, I think it is, or maybe it's the Hammersmith then the Piccadilly, I can't remember, but it is 2 tubes anyway, and it will take me about 40 minutes to get over to where the interview is. It's over in Twickenham, I believe, which is a bit of a strange thing because I've never been to Twickenham before, so fingers crossed. That's also an anxiety thing as well, because I hate going to places and stuff like that I've never been to before. And like last night when I was coming here and didn't know where I was going, like I sent my live location to 2 of my people, because like not 2 of my people but 2 of my friends, because I was like, I'm gonna get lost and I don't want to get lost. So yeah, I was a bit worried about getting lost, not finding the place, although this Travelodge was actually really easy to find. And for that reason, if you were worried about finding the Travelodge when coming out of the tube station, I highly recommend this particular Travelodge because it's really easy to find. So I'm home now, and I thought I would just update you about the visa process because it was definitely not how I expected it. As I previously mentioned in this video, I did definitely expect the visa video to be very like, I don't know, I expected to go in to the visa appointment and for it to be in a room, for me to have to like see 1 or 2 people in like a secluded room. This was definitely not the case. And I was very shocked by how, I was not shocked, it was still like done how it should have been done, but my expectations and the way I worked myself up for it definitely were not how I actually ended up having to do the process. So I've walked into the visa building, and the visa building, they checked my what's called my DS-160, which I believe I previously mentioned in this video, and they've checked my DS-160 against my passport. Then they've put me in this queue, which is still outside the building, but it's like a fairly short queue. You then go up to the front of the building where there's a security guard. This security guard also asks to check your DS-160 and also your passport. They then also ask you to unlock your phone in front of them, and I believe this is to prove that the device is yours, and also maybe for biometrics, and just, I don't know, to prove that this is your device and you're only bringing in devices that are yours and that you have the intention of using. So yeah, he asked me to unlock that. He said once I was unlocked it, there was nothing else I needed to do. He said you can lock it up now. And then I went through to what would be, as I describe, a typical airport security. So this was consisting of, I think there was about 3 or 4 different setups of airport security. So like, you know, the archways that go over and you have to walk through them, and then you also have the bag scanners. So only 2 of them were open at this particular time, but there was 2 people at each station. So I'd at this point noticed that there was 5 different security guards, probably more, in this initial bit of the visa appointment. So I'd gone in, put my bag like in the bag scanner and walked through the scanner. Nothing was amiss, so I've then had to collect my bag and walk outside. So this is where it also was a bit like, where do I go? But it's all enclosed, but at the same time it did just feel a little bit like weird. So I've walked outside of their security building and to their main, like what I would describe as a posher office block. So I've gone into this office block, and again I've had my DS160 and my passport checked by the receptionist, but this time she has put a number on my DS160 and also on my passport. It's like a little sticker. So they put this on, and this sticker has my full name, so my first, my middle and my last name, and then it's also got N, and then it had a number, and I believe my number was 411. So that she's basically then said, okay, second floor. So I've got into the lift with another person, and we've headed up to the second floor. When we got out the lift at this second floor, it was a bit kind of like, where do we go? Because there was so many people on this second floor that it was like, okay, left, right, in the middle, like, where do you want us to go? Luckily there was somebody like waiting at the top of the lift saying, you need to go to the left, wait for your number to be called. There's like many screens, just look at the screens and wait for your number. So I said, is this the number you mean, like the 411? And she goes, yeah, that's the number we mean. So I sat down and must have waited for, you know, maybe sort of half an hour to 40 minutes before my number was called. Whilst I was waiting though, there was many people on phones and stuff, and not that, you know, I checked my phone a couple of times for the time, but I just didn't want to like have any excuse not to have my, you know, visa approved. So I just was like sitting there, like watching the screens, looking around, paying attention to everything that was going on and trying to just mind my own business. Luckily, it wasn't too long, as I said, 30 to 40 minutes, and then my number was called, or my number came up on the screen. So my number came up on the screen and it came up next to a booth, and my booth, I believe I went to, was number 13. So I lined up in front of this booth, and I was the second person to be seen. She was obviously getting a few people in line sort of to see her after the current person. So I was 411, and it basically had a little screen that like said now seeing, and then it had like the number of the person she was seeing, and then it had like please wait, and then it had like a short list of sort of 2 or 3 numbers of people and the order she was going to see them in, like sort of down by the side. So me and these couple of other people got into the queue line. Luckily it went 411, 412, 413, so I was actually like the first person to be seen after the current person that she was seeing. So she's seen this current person, they've gone away. I've walked up a little bit and she's motioned for me to come forward. What I've noticed whenever I've gone to America in the past is that you don't step forward until you're like asked to step forward. Like they're very strict, especially at security, especially as like a visitor to the US. You just follow everything that, you know, you need to follow. So, you know, with this, I've made sure that I've not stepped forward unless she's motioned for me to step forward. So this woman has motioned for me to step forward. I've gone into that little booth area, which has got almost like a little arch where you walk in, and then there's like, it's very much an enclosed booth with her behind a glass screen. She's got a mic, and there's obviously speakers somewhere. I don't know exactly where these speakers were, but they were there somewhere. So we've started talking. She's asked my DS160 and she's asked my passport. She's checked both of these documents, and she has then asked, you know, what my purpose of going to the USA would be. And I've said it's for leisure, and she asked whether I was aware about the ESTA program, and this is when I said yes, I'm aware of the ESTA program, but I failed the ESTA program simply because I answered a question incorrectly, and, you know, it was something that I'd misread. She goes, okay, which question was it? And I said it was question 1 about the physical and mental health. Like, you know, I didn't read the bit about likely to cause mortality, which the answer should have been no, but I put yes because I do have mental health problems. And she was like, okay, that's like a fairly easy mistake to make, but we'll proceed. So she's then asked me to do my fingerprints. So I've had to do like my 4 fingers on each hand and then both my thumbs, and I've had to put both my thumbs on the same screen together, and they've taken my fingerprints and both my thumbs. From there, she has said I need to go to the right hand side of the floor and queue up and then wait to be seen, like, you know, in a second interview. And I've been a bit confused as to why there's 2 interviews, but in hindsight it makes sense, because I suppose whenever something important like getting a visa, or whenever there's something important like, you know, doing medication in hospitals and things like that, and if it's a controlled drug, you always get it double signed. So therefore it makes sense that I would be seen by 2 different people to get something as important as a visa. But I've gone and I've lined up, and this is like no numbers. They've literally, it's like, you know, whatever place you are in the queue, and the queue is just like standing room only. So it's literally just like almost like, you know, a back and forth, all sort of cordoned off by the belt type queues. And if you live in England or if you live anywhere, you probably will, to be fair, know what I mean when I'm talking about this. So I've queued up in this line, and I have waited for probably another 40 minutes, maybe slightly more, maybe 45 minutes. And this queue is moving slowly but surely, and we're like going throughout the queue. I looked back at one point and the queue was longer than when I had started. So I feel good like when I joined the queue, because I joined the queue and it was like half the length of the full length of what the queue could be. Whereas like the queue was like backed up. It was full on, like full queue that I looked back at. So I was glad that I joined when I did, because if people were joining now, it probably would mean an hour's or more wait, which I don't know, standing for that long, and when you're standing still, it's different to if you're standing and walking around. So yeah, I was glad I joined when I did. So what was then happening, when you got to the front of the queue, you were then told to line up in front of a booth, and like one person is already being seen at this booth, but you're like the next person for that person to like see, if that makes sense. So you have the one person being interviewed, and then you have like the next in line for that guy or that gal or whoever to see, you know, at their booth. So I've been put at booth 1, and I've stood there and waited, and then obviously waited to be motioned and called forward. I've been called forward, and we've had the DS160 checked and my passport checked. My fingerprints were also taken, and then some slightly different questions were asked, like, you know, what was my reason for going to, like, you know, the US? And again, I said about leisure. He said, did I know anybody within the US? And I said, yes, I have family friends in the US. And then he asked like what state I was planning to visit, and I said New Jersey. And I just kind of answered all the questions as, you know, to what he, you know, would need. He was then sitting there, he was typing away at his like on his computer, and my mum was saying yesterday that it was probably because he was having to not just put leisure, he was having to put like applicant has stated that she will be visiting the USA for leisure, and that kind of makes sense now. But yeah, so I, you know, answered all these questions, and at the end this guy turned around and he said, your visa's been approved. So at the end of the interview, it was, you know, quite kind of like abrupt, the ending, and it shocked me a teeny bit. So like he said to me, your visa's been approved, I need to keep your passport and your DS160, and you can collect it from your chosen collection point within a week. And I was like, okay, Brill, thank you. And I asked him about the ESTA and the fact that is there a way to get my ESTA application like reset? Like I know I've got the visa for now, but is there a chance to get like, you know, to message somebody or get my ESTA reset so that next time I wouldn't have to do a visa, I could just do an ESTA? And he said currently there isn't a way to reset your ESTA application, and that you do just need to keep applying for your visa. But if you've got a visa in the past, you know, there's, you know, you're probably not going to be rejected like next time unless circumstances do change quite significantly. So yeah, it was one of those. And I mean, at the moment, my passport and my visa is ready for collection. I just haven't been able to go into London to go and get it. But I plan on doing that tomorrow, actually. So today is Monday the 30th of October. Yeah, October. So it's Monday the 30th of October. Sorry, I thought it was August for a second. It's really not August, it's October. So yeah, Monday the 30th of October 2023. And I am going to collect my passport on Halloween, so the 31st. So I'll be doing that. And yeah, I've got a trip booked. I'm going away to America before the year's up, and I've made it happen solely by myself. I haven't needed help from anyone, but I'm making this video to help anyone to understand how to do their visa application if they ever need help in doing their visa application, or if they're worried about the appointment part of it, or if they're, I don't know, like I want to reassure you that going to the appointment is not as scary as it seems. Yes, it's very formal, but it's definitely not scary. So if you need to apply for a visa and you are worried about the appointment side of things, don't be, because it's definitely not as scary as I kind of thought it was going to be. Yeah, so this is going to be the start of my travel vlog. So the next video you'll see will be a travel vlog, and I cannot wait for you to see my adventures. And yeah, like, look forward to it, and I shall see you in my next video when we go traveling. Bye.